put your issue into here, because they then get coached by these amazing people instead of me. And I say, tell me if that's helpful to you. But what I found is they could also be more raw and more, they can just be like, candidly, this is what's going on, why it's driving me crazy.
Another episode of AI Got This, and we're back with Kathy and Lauren, who apparently are in the same room today, which we were all in the same room last time, if you remember. And last time we talked about the second brain, and we're going to sort of do a recap of what that is, and then we're going to talk a little bit about context engineering and give you some examples of how you can use that in all kinds of different industries. But maybe we start off, and Kathy, maybe you just recap sort of what we talked about in terms of the second brain. What do people need to know?
So the second brain was a great conversation that we had, and we talked about how we are using second brains. If you think about a second brain, there's so many things that so much material. Carmel, you talk about this really well, and just how much we are now have to retain, how much we're reading, how much we're ingesting, and then how much of that can you really utilize and call quickly. And so I think we showed an example last time of the leadership brain. I read a lot of leadership books. I took a lot of those leadership books and put them in a second brain. The second brain can hold significantly more content than I have ever been able to fill out, or to put into the particular one we use. We're currently using Notebook LM for this particular example. Loaded all the books and videos from some of my favorite authors. Shout out Brene Brown, shout out Patrick Lencioni, shout out, really good people. And now I feel like I can be coached by them directly. I can go in there and say, hey, I've even shared it with you guys. You can go in there.
You can take it with you anywhere. Like you're not carrying those books around as you travel the world, right? Like that's not going to happen, but now you can.
Well, and one of my staff, they'll come to me and say, oh, I'm having this issue. And they're trying to phrase it right because, they need to be appropriate because they're talking to another human who has judgment. And I'll say, you know what, I think that's really good. And before I've said to them, I've said, hey, I want you to put your issue into here, because they then get coached by these amazing people instead of me. And I say, tell me if that's helpful to you. But what I found is they could also be more raw and more, they can just be like, candidly, this is what's going on, why it's driving me crazy. And we taught the second brain to not just spit out, here's what the book says, but we taught it to say, hey, we want a positive, healthy work culture, and how can you utilize this information to drive that forward? And so it's been really productive.
Yeah, that's impressive. Okay. So Lauren, talk a little bit about the context engineering then behind that. And what does that mean when we say context engineering, what does that mean to people?
So context engineering is when we're taking like all of that knowledge base that we've established in our second brain and applying some sort of framework or instruction set, guide set, scenarios, do commands, prompts, whatever you want to call it, but we're clarifying the sentiment and the expectations that we're setting for that model, right? So typically that takes in the form of like a clear prompt with a lot of detail. As like a reminder, CLEAR stands for context, logic, examples, arrangement, and reinforcement. It's just a prompt framework. But there's typically a lot more. We'll provide it like actual file examples to reference, particular frameworks or methodologies that we want it to follow from an arrangement perspective. And then we'll translate those into do commands. So we're taking an entire CLEAR prompt framework with a ton of references and shrinking that down into a command that is like 3 words or less that then we can give to that second brain. And it eliminates the need for differentiation between like my prompt or Kathy's or yours. And we're all working with the same kind of base guidelines or instructions. So it's kind of like engineering, right, the model to adhere to the standards of the expectations that we want.
Love that. And so when people think about context engineering and the instructions, this is like training it, right? So when people say, oh, you got to go train your model, this is what we're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. And this is important because it sets the tone and the way that the brain is going to communicate with the audience. And I think that's the difference between doing something like this rather than just going in and typing some questions in ChatGPT and having it look at, and I'm just using ChatGPT as an example, could be Claude, could be any of them, right? Where it's looking at content the abundance of content that it has access to, and bringing you back information where you've specified specific information that you want it and tailored that to what it's looking like, and then giving it instructions around how to. Okay, that's awesome. Maybe, do you guys have any examples other than the executive coach on where we've done this? Maybe you could share that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So, and this example is in Notebook LM. There are other ways you can do this. Notebook LM has some advantages. Are y'all looking at the correct screen? Does this look right to you?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
looks good.
perfect. Just want to make sure. So, the leadership coach, here's an example of where we just loaded all of the books. And we did a little bit of content engineering, right, Lauren? Like we
Yeah.
took and said, let's give it tell it who the personality is, that you want it to be empathetic, you want it to do those things.
Yeah,
You
we can get
basically-
sentiment.
That's the difference, right? This is not so much really giving a ton of instruction, but just giving it some sentiment to
Yeah.
understand how you want it to behave. This is an example, we call it a guru, Carmel, just because it is really smart. And this is one we built for a second grade classroom. If you think about it, we've all been in school, and there's times where the teacher calls in and you're so excited because you have a substitute teacher, which means you're not going to have to do anything that day.
Reel in the TV on the cart.
There's the TV
on
on
the
the cart
movie.
because they have no idea what they're going to do that day. Or they come in, there's a binder on the desk. If you've ever been a substitute teacher, you understand this is what is not so fun. Well, now we have a second brain that has all of the curriculum. It has all of the teacher notes. It has examples of what makes this classroom great, but it's also got some do commands here of what do we want done? What is this guru supposed to do? It's also got some instructions, very specific instructions behind this specific assistant to help us understand. So now when I come in here to the second grade guru and all I said is, hey, I woke up this morning, I have the flu, I won't be able to go to school this week, I am stressed. I hit enter, it understands what I'm telling it I need. I'm not needing to go in and say, I need a substitute. What's the lesson plan? What is all of that type of structure? We'll see how fast it goes. It will come back and say, okay, well, here's a plan for the substitute teacher. It can come up with the specifics down to, if when I'm trying to get the class's attention, I raise my hand and say, class, and the class responds, yes, yes. These are things that make your classroom work, not just a function of, oh, I know that they're talking about, they're reading this book today, but give me really specific instructions. That is the difference between someone being a highly successful substitute teacher and one that is just getting through the day.
Yeah, I love that. I also think this translates to other industries. If you think about folks that are on leave, or, if you've got folks that are experts in certain things, but they're stretched very thin. If you're single threaded, you can utilize a guru like this and have the rest of the team be interacting with it to get information and share knowledge across teams that otherwise may be difficult to do, in that sort of scenario.
It was slower than I wanted, which is also the beauty of live demoing, right? Like that is an amazing thing. So I'm going to try it again on a different tab just to see if I can make it speed up. It usually is not that slow. It's very instantaneous. But again, this is what happens even on live demos.
Yeah, that's okay.
I think you definitely can use this, and we'll let that run for a second and see if it does not wake up. There's probably something going on there. Not with the guru, the guru can do it. But I think you're right, Carmel. It's the same thing. Lauren is amazing and so smart. And there are so many clients we're working with. And sometimes what happens is if Lauren is out, I'm like, ooh, we'll wait till she gets back. I don't know. I can do so many things without her, but there's a lot that I can't. And if I have a Lauren brain and Lauren is dumping her things in there and it can access her documents live and she can edit those documents and those notes, now I can go and say, it's like I'm asking Lauren.
Exactly. Exactly. And when you think about, you've got people in roles and positions that have specific functions and they're an expert in that role. if you had a brain for them, you know, when they're out sick or if they go on vacation or a leave of some sort, having access to this where you could just ask it questions like what we're showing here would be a pretty amazing way to consolidate that information and share knowledge. I love what this came up with, though.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like, oh dear, I'm so sorry that you have the flu. Like, it's empathetic first, especially the start of the school year, right? And it goes through, and then it gives you specifics, like this is what you're talking about really quickly. And then it comes in with attention signals, bathroom water policy, reward systems, think consequences. This is, so it's not just giving you lesson plan, it's giving you everything. What happens if there's a fire drill? What medications need to be dispensed? What's the schedule for today? All of those kind of things. And that's because of the context engineering that Lauren, her team did, that all I had to do was say, I'm sick, I'm stressed, help. And it knows exactly what I need and how I need that disseminated.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Lauren, I think you've got an example of this too, right? I mean, I don't think you can demo it, but we can talk through it, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our internal teams here at Armanino utilize a similar kind of structure. Our strategy and transformation team. So you all have seen Talbot Hardy. He kind of, this was the inception for his team to utilize this. And I use it all the time, candidly, especially when I'm trying to work my way through a transcript of a call that I miss, right? So we take the transcript from a particular call, have the input from every single individual that participated, and say, all right, do a transcript analysis from this meeting that I missed. Give me the summary, the recommendations, you know, do I need to help my team through anything? And it will be able to indicate to me that. But it's also going to ground that in some specific frameworks around how do we think about the recommendations that we're providing to a client. Are there Lean Six Sigma principles that we need to apply if we're looking at a specific process, right? And say we want to modify that before we turn around and automate it. And so it really is able to tailor to specific framework and needs for somebody. I've talked with a lot of M&D clients, and the one that continuously is like ringing in the back of my head is around like specific machinery, right? Oh, this person can't retire because they're the only one who knows how to use that equipment or repair it when it breaks down. And this is an opportunity to start to like get ahead of that, right? Okay, now so-and-so can retire or win the lottery or whatever without having to worry, because, you know, you could add the manual, you could add repair logs in there, you could add recent like maintenance orders or purchase orders for new parts in there. You could say, have that person start to create notes and context as to what they've done to repair it in the past. And I think that's that one like is continually like in the back of my head, like that's a great use case for this.
It is a great use case for that. You could even interview people and then put the transcript of the interview in there so that you're getting how they're doing things in their own words into the brain. It's really a smart way to think about utilizing AI in scenarios where, you know, sometimes we call them gray hairs, where, you know, we've got people that are really smart and stretched really thin, or substitute teachers, or examples like you just talked about, Lauren, where, you know, you've got a specialist that knows this one thing and it's the only person that knows that. Really, really great use cases for a second brain and a guru.
Even Carmel, like you could set up an agent to interview different people in your office, have it do the interviews, right?
Absolutely.
Ask question one at a time, grab each one of those interviews, put it in the system. Yeah. And then if you build enough context engineering to understand what you want from it, being able to say, hey, I'm about to launch AI. Who needs what training? How does that, based upon their responses, really understanding the individuality? Like that's the power to me of AI, and particularly some of these tools. Definitely. Is it moves us from doing what's good for the masses and the onesie twosies falling out and us losing them, and us doing what's good for the individual, because now we have the ability to individualize.
Yeah. What a great point. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You get to meet everybody where they are, right? And they get to have their own experience with the AI and ask the questions that they want to ask in the way they want to ask it. I think that's super great. Okay. We got like 4 minutes left. So any closing words that we want to impart on the audience?
I
Go
think
get
that
yourself a second brain.
yeah, get yourself a second brain, get started with that. And I think at the end of the day, start to figure out the avenues that work for you to get some of this context engineering down. I've had a few individuals say, you know, I tried to tinker with this for a couple hours and it is not as easy as it looks. And I think that rings true, right? As
Yeah.
much as there's going to be gaps, right? And gaps that I see that maybe Kathy doesn't, or vice versa, make a difference, right? Like something that I'm like, well, obviously the substitute is going to need information on what to do in a fire drill, but it's like maybe somebody else didn't notice that, right? So there's also your own kind of biases and mishaps that you're not recognizing as part of the context engineering as well. So I think having an established partner or a thought partner through that process is really helpful too.
The other thing I would say is these are shareable. This is not you creating something in a vacuum that you can't share with anybody. And so if you have a thought partner that helps you come up with one and says, this makes sense for this person, you may not even need them to do everyone's, but you can share yours with them. They can see how to interact with it. And there's so much, if you think about, if we had a second brain for Carmel and Lauren and me and all the different people that are in our group, and each one had one and we could access them, how much more powerful are we as a team? I don't need to come to Carmel for every single thing. Still for the most important things, because there is no replacing Carmel Wine Coop. But for some of those easier things, I could say, hey, what would Carmel say on this, right? And get some answers.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay. Well, this has been awesome. I think it really does highlight how a second brain can be a thought partner in your process and really be the thing that you can interact with that is super helpful and actionable immediately. Anybody can go take advantage of this right now, which is really awesome. So thank you guys both for being here. And we will have another episode of AI Got This next month. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.